And it changes you out of a stress response. Okay, you guys, I'm reading from Jordan B. Peterson, 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos, which is a thrilling thing. I find it a very thrilling book. This is the kind of book that like keeps me up at night. It's not like the page-turner romantic storytelling. Okay, rule number 2, and I think this is one that is really important for us. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Many of you can write that down. Someone can type it in the window. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. So I wanted to chat about this for a minute while we're getting here. It's working now. We have 20 people here. How many of you are noticing that you're befriending yourself through your habits? Yeah, Patty, yeah, I'm seeing some hands. Jessie, yeah, Jen's nodding her head. There's often it's a pathology that's subtle that a lot of us carry just from being raised and just the way we were raised, and it's a dualistic mentality of where the mind is directing the body, and in this the mind is judging the body, and then the mind starts to judge the habits and the cravings of the body, and it's this very dualistic paradigm. You know, it's like mind versus body, and it's really weird because it doesn't work out very well. It creates a lot of negativity and downward spiral. And so this sense of, you know, treat yourself like someone worth helping, it'll naturally, when we try to help ourselves, is that false duality, and it is a false duality, it dissolves. It gets digested by consciousness. And then what happens is we're noticing like there's not that divide, and there's a deep cooperation between the mentality, between the emotions, thinking, and the physiology. And in that we start to notice that there's an ease, and our mind isn't spiraling into negativity that's caused by judgment, right? And there's something that happens there too, where we start to notice like we're just really a lot happier almost all the time. We're psyched. And that, to me, it's just a marker. When you get there, you're like, oh, I've digested some of that. So for those of you who are there, just notice that and appreciate that, the work that you've done in aligning your habits. Because in an aligned habitual life where you're treating yourself like someone worth helping, like you're helping yourself. And it's cool because Jordan Peterson, he's a psychologist by background. He's like one of those guys that's like studied everything though, but that was his formal training and practice. Is he talks about the same things we talk about. Go to bed, get sleep at the same time, like get your body in a rhythm and notice what happens, because he's dealing with the mentality, he's dealing with the mental imbalances, he's dealing with the anxiety and the depression and the suicide and the everything, ADD, ADHD, all the stuff that happens that falls under the mental diagnoses. And he's saying like, if we can just stabilize the biorhythms, a lot of stuff just goes away, right? And this is where too, I just want to point out before we really dive into today, I'm a generalist, not a specialist, and so I have that orientation naturally, and I'm a systems thinker. But one of the cool things that I've been noticing over the last few decades of this work is that people get really identified with their unique health conditions, and they attach an identity to that. I'm this way and this makes me special, this makes me different. Oh, I can't eat that because I have da-da-da-da. Or I need to do this because I have this condition. But often it's not with habits in alignment. It's with habits out of alignment that are perpetuating the condition. So it's so fascinating, and we should all start to notice as we're all up-leveling our habits into this really simple alignment, these simple habits that help the physiology be in rhythm with the cosmos, be in rhythm with evolution, the evolution that formed our physiologies in the first place, that are so much older than our number of years on the planet. Is as we befriend our constitution, as we befriend our human history, we start to notice that these things that make us different fall away. The dis-eases start to fall away, and we actually have so much more in common. So why do these habits work for hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia? Why do these habits work for weight loss for people that need to lose weight, and weight gain for people who need to sleep more? Why do they work for people that are anxious and people who are depressed. So high energy, low energy, right? And this is what anyone who's listening here who's a yoga health coach, you should become obsessed with this. I mean, this should become so fascinating to you. It's like, it's the why does it work for all of these opposite, all of these contrary symptoms, conditions, diseases. So fascinating. All right, that's my little intro. Awesome. All right, anyone wins? Anyone want to share before we go into habit number 8? My favorite habit, I think, right now. They all kind of are, though, aren't they? Andrea Perry. So I want to talk a little bit. And if anyone else wants to put your brag, and I would really like everyone on here to find a small brag, because you actually, this is part of a technique of training your mind to what's working. And it's not just a technique in Tantra, although it does, like seeing the tree is definitely a principle of Tantra where you actually train your awareness to look for the good. We also see it in design thinking, where you start with what's working. What's working? Because the more you can see what's working, the more you can leverage it. And some people in habit science or behavioral science, they call this habit stacking, right? Which for some of us is just like, just do the same damn thing tomorrow. And you're kind of just like starting, it's more habit automation before you can stack another little micro habit on top of it. But you want to start to, I want to see, like, we have 26 people on here, and we heard from 4, so we should see 22 other people. Put your small brag. What can you leverage that's working? And for some of you, you're like, oh, no, I fell off the wagon. I'm horrible. I'm a perfectionist, and I'm not doing any of this, and blah, blah, blah. You know, like you have to dig a little deeper of like, oh, I showed up today. That's working. I'm here. I'm listening. So there's always something that you can find. And again, it's training your awareness. And anyone, and like I said in the beginning, we often come in to different levels of integration, mind, body, spirit integration, new levels of healing. We often come in from a dichotomous or dualistic paradigm where we're seeing what's not working. And it's a downer. It brings the physiology down. It brings the energy down. It promotes stress. It promotes every aging factor you can measure. So you need to retrain your awareness to like, all right, I ate a bigger, heavier dinner last night, stayed up, drank 2 glasses of wine, whatever, and I woke up this morning and I took 3 deep breaths, you know? It's like I woke up and today's a new day. And you want to start to leverage on that rather than like, beat myself up for what's not working. So the more we retrain our awareness to like, hey, I'm gonna brag, and you guys aren't just gonna brag to me and to us. You want to brag to everybody at every possible time. And this is so different. Does anyone ever like get together with their friends and you kind of have I call it the lowest common denominator conversation? Where someone's like, oh my, and you start like, someone whines about something and then someone complains about something else and then someone complains. It's like the stitch and bitch parties, I think is what they were called in the 60s. You guys know what I'm talking about? Right? Yeah? Ladies' night out parties, there's like, it can devolve into like, whose kids misbehave the most, whose husbands are the least a lot, blah, 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 right? Who's the most, and what we want to do is actually retrain. But that doesn't work. That just goes down. What we want to do is actually learn how to collectively raise each other up and how to be in the presence of other people celebrating their small wins, so that when someone else is reporting a win, when Andrea is saying like, and you guys heard her 3 weeks ago saying like, I'm not doing self-massage. You guys remember that? And she's saying, I'm not doing this habit. And now she's like, I'm automating it based on a negative emotional trigger. Like, party on, sister. Awesome. Maybe now if I feel overwhelmed, I'll think of like maybe using that as a habit, small habit trigger to do one of the body 5 habits, whether it's running around the house, jumping on the trampoline, drinking a glass of water, doing self-massage. For me, it's now jumping in the cold plunge. Hilarious. I use that thing like, give me a hit. Total physiological reset. All right. Good. So Monica says, I've had quite a disruptive week for my habits with a lot of travel. Each day I focus on one habit only and do it. So that's a win. So yeah, it's like even while doing this, I can do this. So my challenge to you all is to just brag a little this week. Like do it like in an edgy way, in a way that you're like randomly telling someone about your habit progress. Like, I'm going to bed really early and getting a lot of sleep. I made myself an amazing lunch today. It was just so delicious. And I went onto my patio out there. We have this little bedroom patio. It's off my office in the bedroom. We're going to do a home photo shoot because we're so excited about our space and it's part of our wake living thing. But we have a day bed out there. So I ate this like phenomenal lunch and then I went and read my book. Took a little time out. I didn't sleep, but I just rested. It was amazing. And what does that do for you guys? Does it kind of inspire you to be like, oh, lunch, yeah, I should make my own self an amazing lunch. And if I want to rest, I should get a little rest. And then I should brag about it because then someone else might do it. They might not be inspired to treat themselves like someone they're worth helping. Okay. So you're all, who's going to brag this week? Who's going to just practice? It's just a practice. You just need to practice bragging. You don't have to be good at it yet. You don't have to look to inspire anyone else. It's just see if you can practice doing that. I've noticed in my child around the age of, it was really between 8 and 9 that she picked up some pattern, some pathological pattern out there of devaluing, of like doing the opposite of bragging. Of being like, and like it was the kind of the cool thing to do. You know what I mean? Where you devalue yourself because it's like the cool thing to do because you fit in. It's a verbal speech pattern. And it wasn't, I didn't notice it really before 7.5, but I noticed it after that. And now we've more or less retrained that out at 10. But a lot of us picked it up, but we never trained it out. We never had someone else. So I'm here to say like, okay, I'm going to help you train that one. Train that out. Like, always look to, hey, how can I celebrate my small wins? And if I can do that publicly, I actually get a little hit, and it helps me reinforce this positive feedback loop, this habit automation loop, so that tomorrow I'm going to be more likely. So I've been talking about cold showers and cold plunging since last October, since one of the Body Thrive members inspired me. So the more I talk about it, what do you think happens? The more I own it, right? The more likely I am to do it. So yesterday, no, it was 2 days ago, it was Winston's birthday, and we got on our mountain bikes and we biked down this really easy trail. And she's picking it up quick now that she's strong, and she gets that it's a core competency of our family. You have to be a good mountain biker. You have to be a good skier. You have to be able to keep up. It's just due to where we live, the mountains are right there. So we get to the end of the trail, and there's this creek, and it's pumping, and it's pumping like snow melt. And Winston gets in, because now he's automated this habit of like, there's a creek, I'm jumping in it. And he's like, it is so cold, you've got to get in. And I'm like, and I'd already done like my cold plunges that day. And I was like, I'm like, no, City, I'm good. And he's like, looking at me, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean you're not going to get, like, this is the coldest water. He's like, this is colder than we were in the same place in January. And we were standing on 2 feet of snow getting into the street. He's like, it's colder now. And I'm like, how can it be colder now? We're having this like totally ridiculous conversation. How can it be colder? And so he's trying to think of this theory of how like the running water is warmer. It's warmer because it's coming from springs in the earth to keep that water moving in the winter, but now it's direct snow melt. So then it was probably in the mid 40s, and now it's probably just at about like 37. So we're going to start carrying a thermometer around. Well, what do you think happened? I got in the damn water, right? Why? Because he's standing there bragging about himself and how cold this water is that he just got in. And he's making me feel like I'm A, going to be the biggest loser if I don't do it, because all I do is talk about this stuff. And B, like, I'm missing out. Like, this is so good. This is like the creme de la creme cold river bathing. So I'm going to miss out unless I get in there. And that's what some of you felt like when I was talking about my delicious lunch and hanging out on my patio with my little snooze. Like, how am I going to make that part of my schedule? How can I make sure that a couple afternoons a week in the summertime, I get a little downtime before I have another thing to do? So that's my challenge to you all this week is just notice that. Notice the more you do it, how it increases that positive habitual automated feedback loop in your own mind so that the next day you're more likely to do that habit. And then B, just be very, very curious about where that conversation goes. So don't know how people are going to respond. Like some people are just going to be like down themselves from it, and some people will respond. Some people being curious and ask you more about, but don't know. Just kind of notice what happens from when you're telling people what you're doing that's working for you, and you're really doing it for yourself first, right? You're going to treat yourself like someone worth helping. You're going to test this theory that I'm throwing out there that the easiest way to do this maybe might just be to brag about your small wins every day and see what starts to happen.